So here we are in section lecture 13B, and we're looking at the paper Race, Disability, and the School to Prison Pipeline. So we start with a discussion about Amo and what was his issue. Oh, his parents had broken up, and his mom didn't like his dad's new girlfriend. He never saw adults working well together. There was probably lots of arguing and lots of displays of anger. So he didn't really have a great deal of respect for adults. So when he would go to school, he would exhibit that. And when he was exhibiting that behavior, this puts many African American boys on a track in education, special education and the disciplinary track. And this is a track that basically limits and continues to label mainly African Americans, particularly African American boys, as being not normal, not being okay, and needing these kinds of interventions. So the point, the school treating African American boys as being different and not normal puts them on a track to be pushed out of school, to find that school isn't their place. This is not where I have success. This is not a place for me. They don't want me here. They treat me different. Why would I want to come back here? And that puts them in a place where they're much more likely to be involved with law enforcement and the corrections part. They're more likely to be suspended and expelled. Most of those that were in the 2012 school year were African American. The only other group that had more suspensions and expulsions were Native Americans. Why? Well, according to the source that's the teacher for this article, without support, teachers often turn to special education for help. And what that usually means is taking the child away from the peers, label them different, label them not normal, put them in a special room or in some sort of different labeling thing, which the child often rebels against, doesn't want to be treated as being different. Amo got a behavior interventionist that actually attended class with him, an expensive but important thing because that seemed to save him, because the beginning of the story starts out with his graduation. So then there's a discussion of disability versus disadvantage. So 13% of K through 12 students are labeled special education. And there's like 13, 14 different ways that you can get a special education designation. And emotional disturbance or behavioral disturbance is one of them. African American children are twice as likely as Latinos, 4 times as likely as Asians, and 1.5 times more likely than whites to be labeled as being special ed and in need of these kinds of disciplinary track interventions, versus white children that are often labeled as autistic and they're given help. So by not seeing the effect of disadvantage, right? Parents that, let's say, maybe they're in a single parent household. Maybe that parent themselves doesn't have education, never completed a high school degree. Maybe that parent doesn't have time or resources to come to PTA meetings or to help out. Or maybe they're suffering from poverty or live in a high crime area. These disadvantages are not properly filtered for. And again, teachers, not an ability to fix any of those problems, basically call out for special ed to help. And then again, the child is put on this track. Why? Why could this be? Well, most of the teaching profession is white and female. And the book talks about implicit bias, racial bias, and also something called, I'm going to put in your thing, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is you already think a thing and then you look for reasons. That child is defiant and is never going to go anywhere, and then your attention as a teacher is always on those things that confirm your already bias that might also be racially based or have some bias against that group. Students with disabilities are 2 times more likely to get expelled or suspended. Uh, so, how do the schools respond to it? Often with a police response. African American students make up 16% of the K through 12 population, but 31% of those arrested at school. Um, how to fix it? So the Cox Academy, the school in this article in Oakland, California, they had what they called an all-in model. The general ed teacher is paired with a special ed instructor and 2 different counselors. In this case, I guess a counselor and a behavioral interventionist, all to help a student like Amo have success and be able to try harder, rather than basically having special ed be this other bin of educational outcomes and tracks in which success is, kept out of reach often of those students who have gotten that label. The last paper is about Sharon Kowalski and Karen Thompson. Sharon Kowalski was involved in a car accident in 1983. She has a brainstem injury and is paralyzed. Her parents are unaware or unaccepting of the fact that Sharon was gay and Karen Thompson was her partner. So what happened? Well, the first year or so, Karen visits her often, but the Kowalski parents try to exclude her. They don't like this gay thing. The parents get guardianship, and were basically told that Karen was told she couldn't visit. Legal battles ensue. The Minnesota version of ACLU gets involved, and they say, hey, look, she could communicate. She says she's gay. She wants to see this Karen person. But the court said she had no understanding of her circumstance and could not testify for herself. Imagine that. Just imagine what that's like when the court treats somebody, again, you're not normal, you're not okay, you're not enough for the society to treat you as enough of a person that you can even testify in your behalf. 1985, the Kowalskis get full guardianship, move Sharon to a nursing home that didn't have any rehabilitation features, and don't allow Karen, her partner, to see her for 3 years because he stopped it. Eventually, in 1989, Karen, her partner, pushes for Sharon to be tested, something that should have been going on. And because of that testing, Karen is granted guardianship, but still under control of the courts. In the 1990s, Sharon and Karen get some awards. They go to San Francisco to get some award. But a judge who's uncomfortable with the level of publicity this is all garnering, disability publicity, gay publicity, she goes, well, you're not allowed to go to the Disability Pride Parade in Boston. So again, imagine that. A judge is telling grown people what they can do. How was this done? How could we allow this? This would never allow this. Well, a couple of things. She wasn't able to speak. And again, part of what's considered ableism is some mental places that people often jump to. Well, if you can't speak, you're not competent. Again, not true, but a leap many make. Because she had what was termed a twisted physical form. She was helpless. And because of that, she was considered not really able or worthy to have rehabilitation or human interaction. So much so that during the years when she was at the nursing home, she had to have surgery to correct the fact that when you're left in bed for that long, your limbs curl up in this very painful kind of contorted way. And if you are in that physical contorted form, you're helpless. We keep folks like that out of sight. Her own father said, hey, she's in diaper. Just let her rest in peace. In other words, let her be dead. She wasn't dead. She had an injury that led to a disability. And the last element is basic, what we call heterosexism. The idea that being different than heterosexual is such a violation of norms and normalness, that a couple who have that don't have any rights. And in 1984, they didn't have any rights. It may even go that with some of the changes being proposed going forward here in 2025, we may see rollbacks to gay marriage. And what are the outcomes of that? Well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is somebody who has formed a relationship with somebody should be able to get married. It's a fundamental, basically, right of association, a right that comes with certain, rights that are important. I myself have seen people I know that their families disowned them for being gay, hadn't talked to them for 15, 20, 25 years, but when they got ill, their partner, before being allowed to get married, their partner was not allowed to make any decision. So somebody, a family member who hadn't seen this gay person for 20 years, gets to make medical and life-determining decisions when they had written that person out of their life just for being gay. So there are real consequences to this issue of disability, how it relates to race, how it relates to gender and orientation. So give that some thought, and I'll see you next time.